You're not broken if you don't know what you're doing next. Hi, Lucia. Come in the podcast episode. Come say hi. She's roaming around the room trying to figure out why exactly we're hanging out over here. If you're not sure what you're going to be doing next in your life, whether that's just a super small, quick decision, or it's something that maybe requires a lot more thought, a lot more of a process to it, our lives are constantly changing. Humans' lives. Oh, now it's playtime apparently. This cat is 16 years old and gets zoomies every day. I don't understand it. We as humans, things are constantly changing for us. We're constantly making new decisions. We're constantly gaining new information in our lives. And we're constantly making new thought processes. We're constantly changing. We are constantly looking for what is the next step. And on some aspect, yes, this is important because we do need to know what the next step is because life can be scary. And we do kind of have to prep ourselves for whatever this next thing is. And I think that that's also human nature to be afraid of making the wrong decision. And I don't really feel like there is always a wrong decision. As long as you are thinking with your best interest and being aware of your surroundings, I think that there's not always a right and a wrong decision. Life is not black and white, and that's what makes it so complicated and oftentimes scary because there isn't this rule book or this manual of what it means to be human. Being human means so many different emotions, so many different decisions, so many different thought processes, so many different opportunities, so many different things. And that's where decision making can be really difficult, and knowing what you're meant for can be really scary. I guess one example is I originally thought when I was about to enter college that I'd be going for neuroscience. And then I decided not neuroscience, psychology. And then I switched back to neuroscience. And then I took an economics class as a joke and decided I loved it. And now I'm double majoring in neuroscience and economics. Sometimes life doesn't go the way that we expect it. If life had gone the way that I had expected it, I wouldn't be where I am today because my decisions have built upon where I am in this current moment. And where you are in a current moment is constantly changing. So sometimes the decisions in the future are going to be changing too. And that's scary. That's terrifying. And it's okay because you're not alone. Because every single human has felt lost in this decision-making process before. And the sad part with that is that in a decision-making process, when you're feeling lost with it, it often feels like you're alone because ultimately no one can make the decision other than you. But the feeling of being alone, that's something so many people have felt. Everyone has felt at some point or another. You are not alone in that feeling, and oftentimes people can maybe help guide you to make a decision. Ultimately, I think it's up to time. When I started college, I had no idea what I was going to do after. Then I eventually decided, yep, I'm in econ, I'll get a job right off the bat, be making a good income, not really have to worry as much, right? Now I have changed my mind. I'm a senior and I just recently changed my mind that I think I might be taking another route. I think instead I might decide to go to graduate school. I think I'm not quite ready to be done with school yet. I feel like there's more that I need to learn to feel prepared. And I feel like, what my plan is right now is to be going to graduate school, maybe moving across the world to study economics and neuroscience. And that opens up so many different career opportunities that I would not have had if I hadn't accidentally taken a class in economics, right? Being human means making decisions and being scared. I think that's kind of the gist of it. I don't think there's any way to make it easier than it is. Life is a lot. Life isn't easy, but there are ways, I think, to make that decision a little less stressful. I think there's ways to help you feel more confident about whatever direction you do take. And one thing that I have found in struggling with decision making is that oftentimes it comes down to two things: values and time. And the time one really sucks because sometimes there are decisions that just take time. And when you don't feel like you have time, that can be really scary. But a lot of times that is what you need. Time can sometimes be the best way to heal, and it can also be the best way to figure out what your next path is. I think about so many different decisions in my life where I've felt very stressed, not knowing what was going to happen, what my next decision was. There was a time in my life where I was not on medication and I was not surrounded by a very healthy mindset, and I was not doing well. I thought I was going to drop out of college. I thought I wouldn't be able to do it. I had this whole plan of what I was going to do otherwise. And for some people, that might be the right answer, right? But for me, it turns out that wasn't the right answer. And as much as I wanted to quit that day, to say, I'm done, I knew I needed to at least give myself time. And it started with take it day by day, just one more day, and then see. And it constantly changed as to, wait a second, this day was just a little easier. Wait a second, I found joy in this moment. I'm curious what will happen next. And days became weeks, and weeks became months, and all of a sudden I loved it. And I knew that that's where I was supposed to be. And now months have become years, and here I am, a senior in college, which is just crazy to talk about, to tell people when they ask me what year I am. I'm like, wait, I'm a senior. That's weird. You always hear that it goes so fast. And I knew it would, but I didn't think it would go this fast. I didn't think about what it would be like for the time to come and say, yeah, I'm a senior, and be talking about what I'm doing next. And on one hand, I want to talk about what I'm going to do next, where I'm planning on going, what exactly I'm planning on studying, all of my excitements with it. And on the other hand, I don't want to talk about it because I think that is still a personal journey for me. And it's something that I think that it could change, right? It could change. So I don't want to be set out on this happening and then changing things all the time. I've started talking about it like it's a reality, but in reality, yes, I do want that to happen, but give or take a few months, I might change my mind again. And that's okay. And I want to honor that that's okay for myself. So am I talking about it as if it's a reality already? Yes, because right now that is my plan. But in terms of actually talking about that online, I feel like sometimes those types of journeys I do better with when they're left unsaid, when the process is there, the process is seen, but maybe the aspirations, the behind the scenes bit of it, I think is still a personal journey. But it did change. My ideas changed. They're still changing. I'm thinking about capstone stuff now. Man, you guys, it is crazy. Oh, it's raining. Oh, this is so cozy. I was wondering why it got so much darker. I'm very glad I turned on a candle. I really have built this place. We're going on a tangent here, but I've really built this place to make me so happy and to really value. I don't buy things unless I know that it 100% brings me joy now. And so that's why literally all of my clothes fit on a rack. They are starting to overflow though, so I'll probably end up getting some under bed storage soon. But I really love the way that every single thing in this space, in this home, brings me joy and has a story about it. Even the clothes that I wear, all of it is thrifted, and all of these rings, if they're gonna focus, they're all thrifted as well, and they all have such a unique story behind them, and it makes me so happy. Anyways, I think that's also part of the decision-making process here. I'm trying to put my tangent into my theme for the day, but I think that that's also part of the decision-making process, is what is bringing you joy, your values. What values and what things bring you joy? So when I think about my future, I know that one of my values right now is being kind to myself, exercising my brain, being curious. And those values are really important to me right now. Instead of just going with the flow, being a little bit more, not that going with the flow is a bad thing, but I think right now I need to be more conscientious about the things that I'm doing and the steps that I'm taking for my future. And so that's where graduate school or the idea of something else coming next came in. And I think the same way that when you go to the store and you see something that brings you joy, like, why is it that one thing brings you joy but another thing doesn't? Because we all have these passions within us. That's something that's much deeper than our body, our mind even necessarily. That's something that's maybe like a soul thing. Personality is this phenomenon that like is so hard to wrap your mind around, but that's where passion comes in. And so these things that you're passionate about in life, these values that you hold true to yourself, like for me, communication is 100% an important value. And I know from experience that I do not do well if there's not communication. And you can talk to people close to me. Like if someone is not willing to communicate, I will do my best to communicate, but if it gets to a certain point, like that is one of my non-negotiables, and I will get up and leave if it's not being met, right? I'm not going to get up and leave randomly, right? We're going to talk about it, but those values that are really important to be able to express that they are important to you and that is a non-negotiable for you, and to also be able to live out those values in your life. And so when making a decision, I always ask myself, what decision can I make that will live out my values and my passions most? And sometimes that means making the hard decision, and sometimes that means making the easy decision. It depends on the situation. When I have made decisions about my life, I have cried knowing that this is a big change. When I moved to Australia, I got there and realized, what did I do? I sobbed. And then it was one of the best experiences of my life. And I knew I had to do it. I knew I had to. And I did. And I knew it was going to be hard. And I know this next step for me is going to be hard too. I'm sure there will be a lot of tears. But I also know that it stands true to my values. And I know ultimately I want to be able to make a decision that when I look back in my life, I'm not going to regret the decision I made. So if you have a decision that you need to be making right now, that you're trying to get through, think about that. And if there is no decision and you just feel like you have no direction right now, that's okay too, because that's when time comes in. Time eventually brings you a direction. And if you're feeling like you don't have a direction, maybe it's because you don't have those things that are bringing you joy. Maybe you're living a life that everyone says you should, but that's not what's true to you. Maybe you're going under a lot of stress in the moment. Maybe there's something that you need to do that's going to bring you joy. Just saw the cats back there. Maybe you need to put some effort, put some time, schedule some time towards that. I know for me, a lot of times I have felt that way. I have noticed that when I feel like I have no direction, when I feel like I'm a little lost, maybe that means that there's something that's trying to tell me. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe I am not really paying attention to my values or what brings me the most joy in life in the moment. And instead, I'm kind of just moving forward. And that doesn't mean you have to uproot your whole life and change everything, right? Reality is life is hard, life is scary, life is messy. We can't always do that. But that might be as simple as scheduling, going to bed a half hour later, waking up a half hour earlier, to have time to read a book that brings you joy, to have time to drink coffee or tea that brings you joy without distractions. Maybe it means going to the store, going to an antique store, going to whatever your favorite store is and finding something that brings you joy. Maybe it means cooking. Maybe it means coming up with new recipes. Maybe it means spending time with people you love. Maybe you haven't been getting that social time. Or maybe on the other hand, it means taking alone time. Maybe you haven't been giving yourself enough time to be alone. All of these things can help us bring ourselves closer to who we are. I always said when I had PANDAS, or whenever I go through anything difficult, a lot of times it feels like you're a ceramic doll or one of those Russian dolls or whatever you want to think of that's just being hammered down. You're just completely breaking, shattering into pieces, and a lot of times it feels like there's nothing left. But inside that doll is the true being of who you are. And you have all of these pieces scattered around you. And in that moment, you have the opportunity to go through each of those and think, which ones do I really want to keep? Which ones are really important? And you get to rebuild yourself piece by piece. And I say get because a lot of times it's about the mindset. It's a lot easier than it sounds, right? Because in the reality, those moments are when we hit rock bottom, when we're not feeling good. Those moments are terrifying. And those moments are an opportunity to move forward. And so you go and you pick up each piece, decide this one I'm taking with me. This is a value I'm keeping with me. This is something that's been hurting me. I'm getting rid of it. And you go through and you rebuild yourself. And any pieces that are missing, that's the incredible experience where you get to explore and find those pieces. That's the experience where you try new things and you build yourself up. You heal yourself and you become new again. You become this version of you that's a mix of the old pieces that have been from forever ago, pieces that you just got in your last era in life, pieces that you're building right now, and these new pieces that you're getting. And then again, some other day, you're gonna shatter again, and you're gonna go and pick up the pieces again, and you'll find new ones, and it keeps going. And that is the terrifying part of life, and the terrifying part of moving forward. But it's also one of the most beautiful things to me, because in that moment, you are capable of deciding who you are. And by that, I do not mean your occupation, what kind of clothes you wear, which are all ways to express who you are. But I mean truly, really, completely, 100% who you are deep down. Those are the moments where you have the freedom to choose that. Everyone should have that freedom. Everyone should have the ability to choose who they are. And deep down, it's there. And you have to discover it. And it can be terrifying. But I think when we are honest with ourselves of who we are deep down, that's when we find direction. That's when we think, maybe I know the next step. Or maybe I don't. Maybe I don't know the next step. But I'm taking a step to move forward and try and find that next piece.